Hello, everyone. I am giving everyone a second to pop on. There we go. We are officially live. Hi, everyone. I'm Carlisha Bradley. I am the founder and CEO of Amplify for Women. I'm a high performance women's leadership coach, and the work that I have done to date has impacted over 9,000 women in 23 countries. I'm excited to be doing this live series that I kicked off earlier this week. If you missed any of the videos before today, I'm going to give you like a little sneak peek about what we covered and allow for you to have the opportunity to go back and to watch those. But part of this conversation that we have been having this week is really focused on supporting women executive leaders, those of you in the C suite, but also founders, because I know that the weight and of these roles and of your responsibilities is heavy. And we need resources and support, especially for Black women in this space that speaks to our intersectionality, our viewpoint, some of the unique challenges that we face. And so we kicked off this series on Monday, and I talked to everyone about how to really succeed in the C suite and understanding that what got you here to this executive role to this level of leadership is not going to be what gets you to the next level. It's not going to be the thing that gets you to influence teams at high levels, to drive results both internally inside of the organization and externally, to influence for change. You might be used to being a doer. You might be used to being the person who says yes a lot. And it made you really successful because you were reliable, dependable. You were the straight A student. You were probably the good girl. I know her because I am her. But what I really realized on this journey, and you'll have to go back to that other video to unpack this further, is that what got me to that seat was not going to sustain me, for one, but it also was not going to drive results. And so here we are today. We are talking about this topic of what was the game changer for me. The game changer for me was how I began to say no at work and how it changed everything. So, we went into this space of talking about how we had to change our mindset from what got us to this seat is not going to be what sustains us. Then, yesterday, we were talking about how leadership is lonely. What does it look like to show up fully and authentically at work and to build relationships and to work through team dynamics? And what I'm sharing today, while this is also a conversation, this is also a very practical conversation. You can leave this video today and implement everything that I'm sharing with you to drive results instantly. I am a person that, yes, I love the inspirational pep talks, but I also really want tools. I really want to know what are the things that I can do to drive change. So I see other folks coming on. Hello and welcome. Glad that you all are here. If you would like to share this video with someone that you know needs to hear about the information that we're covering today, they are a founder, they are a C-suite leader, they are a woman of color who is leading in organizations for change, share this video and resource with them to support them on their journey. So let's hop in. All right. Let's hop in. So we've already mentioned that, you're used to saying yes. And to be honest with you, the reason why, you have not really been able to say no is because you have not set criteria for your yes. And I'm going to unpack what that means. But a lot of us struggle with the ability of like, how do I say this? How do I tell them no? How do I say this in a nice way? You're leading a team and you're tussling between, yeah, I used to take these tasks on, but now I have a lot more important things to do. So, how do I tell members of my team no? How do I decline these opportunities because this doesn't fit for me anymore. Well, today, what we're driving towards is not only enhancing your ability to say no, but also establishing that criteria for you to be able to get there. And so, the first thing that I really encourage you to do in our video yesterday, we talked about defining your North Star, your values for your leadership, what you are intentional about and driving towards results. And that is just a foundational thing that you will absolutely need to pop into what we're discussing today. So remember that North Star, that vision setting is not just for the organization. Yes, you're in the seat and you are required to set vision for the organization. But what is your vision? What are your outcomes for you? For your role, for you as a CEO, as a boss, as a founder. How are you showing up and what are you rooted in and how you make your decisions, right? And so the second piece of this is where I'm going to get you down to this practical component. And honestly, you can pull out a piece of paper right now. You can pull out your phone and go through the notes feature, whatever you need. But we're about to unpack this next ingredient. And let me tell you a little bit of my personal story of why I found this to be really important. So, like many of you, I had this path to executive leadership. I made it into the role and realized, wow, these responsibilities look wildly different from what I was doing before. Because if you know that managing people is a job. Okay. If you agree with me, type agree in the comments because the responsibility of managing teams and even of being a leader of leaders, that can be just the full time component right there. But then also, as an executive leader, as a founder, you're still responsible for all of these other components within the organization: the vision, the funders, the donors, the revenue generation, whatever that looks like for you. We know it's a lot. It is a lot. And the responsibility of managing people, feelings, dynamics, hiring, firing. We'll talk about that one at some point because I have gotten some DMs with questions about that process. But all of these different components suck up a lot of your time. And so when I first got into my C suite role, and even in working as a founder, I felt like all of the things that I felt like I could do and that I was good at doing were the things that I was supposed to do. I began taking on the little things, the minor details, and focusing in and drilling in on them. And I found myself overworked and tired. I was constantly doing around the clock because when you're running a business and when you're leading an organization, like there are always demands, there are always needs, there are always people who will be asking you for something or needing your support. And so, as I continued to say yes to the things I was used to doing, say yes to my team members, because I thought like this is a key ingredient of building this relationship. I want them to know that I will be in the trenches with them. I got burnt out. I got burnt out, and to the extent to where I was not able to set vision. It led to more frustration for my team because, yeah, while you can be in the weeds with me over here, you can't talk to me about what does this look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, because you're so focused on the day to day that you don't have time to focus on the long term vision that your team needs, that your organization needs to grow and thrive. You've got to free up your calendar and give yourself space. So you want to know what I did? I'm going to walk you through it. The first thing that I did, there's three steps to this. Like I said, you got out your paper by now, I hope, because I just shared a little story with you, so you should have gotten that out by now. You can have out your paper and you're going to want to write this first question. My first question for you is for you to answer, what is it that you love doing? So if you have your job description, if you have your vision for your role and you're thinking about all of these components that are on your plate, what do you love doing? What piece of this work lights you up? It is one of the best components for you. It is something that brings you joy. And I'll tell you why I'm asking you that question and why I'm not starting with the second question. I start with what you love doing because many times as C suite leaders, as founders, We start the organization or we start in the leadership role, and we're so excited and connected to the mission or the purpose of our work. And we're doing the work that's aligned to that. And once we begin to shift into more of the components of the organization that's required of us, and we have set all of these other pieces to the side, we have a disconnect. It begins like this company that I created, this role that I thought was a dream job, I don't like it anymore. And it's because you never held on to anything that you loved doing. Now, we can't hold on to everything that we love doing, but I list that there because we're going to talk about how we can pull in a piece of that. All right. So, number one, what do you love doing? You are answering this question with your responsibilities. Now, again, we have our job description, our role and responsibilities as our guide to answer this question. All right, question number two. What must be done and can only be done by me? What must be done and can only be done by me? This last part is extra important. I'm not just asking you like what must be done in the organization. What is an absolute must that has to happen and it can only be done by you? So I'll give you an example. I have previously been and am currently an executive director of a nonprofit organization, and I did a lot of the high level fund development, the meetings and conversations. A lot of those pieces were required of me as the executive leader, as the visionary for this work. So I knew this was something that had to be done. And I needed to carve out time in my schedule to be able to commit to doing it. So ask yourself what must be done and can only be done by me. All right. Our third question, as a result of the first two, it's what should be delegated. So, what is left over? What is left over that you are able to delegate to members of your team? You've asked yourself these three questions. What do you love doing? What must be done and can only be done by me? And lastly, what should be delegated? All right, so we went through those questions to break that down because there's this last component of this. Yes, you can know all of these things, but how does that articulate into saying no, Carlicia? Like, what does that mean? When I mentioned in the beginning that you cannot say no because you have not set criteria for your yes, that exercise that I was just walking you through is a piece of the criteria for your yes. What are you willing to say yes to? What are the things that must be done by you? What are the pieces that you love doing? But I also encourage leaders and the women that I coach in organizations that I come and speak to and do team development work. I encourage you as a leader, it's a critical component not just to have the ability to say no, but to also be able to help your team move along the journey to understand your no. Having your no rooted in your values, the values of you as a leader, the values of your organization. As leaders, we're not just, telling people what to do. We also can build the dynamics of our team by supporting them in how we think as executive leaders, taking the time to educate and develop and train them on, Carlicia said, no, this isn't a priority for me right now because of blank. Oftentimes, as I was leading, I would direct our team back to the organizational strategy and vision, getting to the point to where we had a decision-making framework and values that would guide and goals that helped us to begin to make decisions and know, well, what comes to my desk and what does not. And so as leaders, an important piece and the underlying piece in all of this is not just the clarity to know, what you love doing, what must be done by you, and what should be delegated. It's also about effective communication. How are you clearly communicating to your team, to yourself, what your values are, where you're focusing your time? So when you're saying no, your no is rooted in a deeper yes. When you're saying no, you're saying yes to something else. You're saying yes to showing up fully in the ways that you need to for your role. You're saying yes in being able to provide the time and space for your team to get the long-term vision and strategy that is required of you in this position. You're saying yes to the time you need to raise the funds or to build the revenue so that your team can reap the benefits of salaried employment. That is what you're saying yes to. And so, as you begin to understand your values that are guiding you, the reason and the rationale and the criteria for you to say yes, it becomes much easier to say no. All right. So I have loved the feedback from you all. I've been getting emails back and DMs about these videos that we've been hosting. And on one of our lives, I think it was the first one on Tuesday, I got a question and I forgot to answer it there. But I want to take a second to answer that question. And before I get into that question that I'm going to answer, I do want to share, a bit about the work that we're leading and doing at Amplify for Women. We have had cohorts where we take groups of women through a 10-week leadership development and public speaking experience. Our Elevate cohort is launching in early 2024. I'm excited to announce that it is coming back by popular demand. I will drop the link with information about the program in the comments, but it is going to be just truly a great space, a space of community, of like-minded women who are desiring to grow on your career path. You want to rise faster, you want to increase revenue and income for your business, but you also have this pathway of wanting to grow as an industry trailblazer and utilizing your expertise to break into public speaking. So I will drop the link to that in the comments or within this video once it's over so that you all can check that out if you're interested and can schedule a time to talk with me to see if this is a fit for you. But I want to get back into the question that was asked of me. The conversation that we were having that day was about how, as executive leaders, you have to be able to celebrate your accomplishments and celebrate your successes because there isn't your boss who's over there telling you, oh, good job. I want to give kudos to such and such. But how do you celebrate your successes and build your professional brand at the same time? And she asked, well, what are some examples of how I do that, how I showcase that? And I'll give a couple examples of what I've done in the past. For one, in leading organizations, I oftentimes would do like leader reports. It would be in our team meetings. I share out to the team just as, other team members share. I would share the glows, like what did I knock out the park? Like what went well? I would share my grows because I think it's important for people to know, like, hey, this is where I didn't meet my goal, or this is where I'm continuing to push, or what we need to move forward on in the organization. And lastly, I would share the focus areas. What are the priorities? I would try to do these, what I call ED reports, quarterly. But in addition to that, some of us, if you're a CEO or if you were a nonprofit leader, might report to a board. Your board reports are a space where you're sharing this information. So when we think about within the organization, those are some areas where I would showcase what was happening. Now, I also think the power of LinkedIn, we're on LinkedIn right now. On LinkedIn, being able to share your wins, share what's happening for you in your organization, and leaving some nuggets to inspire other people on their journey. Like, what are you learning right now? How did you apply that? And what did that lead to? Because you have a professional network in this space, you should be branding yourself and continuing to keep a portfolio of what those wins are, what you have contributed to, and you get bonus points when you quantify this. Like, what did your success truly look like, and what was the impact, and how did you measure it? All right, so I went a bit over on my time for today, but I did want to make sure I answered that question. Again, if you are interested in learning more about the Elevate program, I'm going to drop some information about that in the comments. And you can also either comment Elevate or DM me the word Elevate, and I can be sure to get you an application link so that we can schedule some time to talk and see if this is a fit for you. But I hope you all enjoyed our session today, and I'll be back next week. Have a great week, you guys.